The jet climbs nearly straight up, then loops into a steep dive. This is similar to the loop-the-loops on many roller coasters. For 30 seconds at the top of the loop, trainees feel weightless. Their feet leave the floor and they can fly around inside the padded cabin. At the end of her training year, Mae officially became a mission specialist astronaut. We're the ones people often call the scientist astronauts, Mae explained. Our responsibilities are to be familiar with the shuttle and how it operates, to do the experiments once you get into orbit, to help launch the payloads or satellites, and also do extravehicular activities, which are the spacewalks. In the 1970s, NASA designed the Space Shuttle as the first reusable spacecraft. A shuttle launches like a rocket, but it returns to Earth and lands on a runway like an airplane. A space shuttle has many uses. It carries both equipment and people into space. Astronauts aboard a shuttle can capture, repair, and launch satellites. Shuttles are often used as orbiting laboratories where space scientists conduct experiments in a zero-gravity environment. In the future, space shuttles might transport supplies and workers for building space stations. Although Mae was a full-fledged astronaut, she still had to wait 4 more years before she went into space. While she waited, Mae worked with the scientists who were developing experiments for her mission. She also trained with her fellow crew members. In her spare time, Mae liked to read, travel, ski, garden, dance, and exercise. She also enjoyed taking care of Sneeze, her white, gray, and silver African wildcat. On September 12, 1992, the long wait was over. Space Shuttle Endeavour perched on the launch pad like a great white bird waiting to take flight. Everything was ready for the liftoff. Mae awoke early to shower and dress. She ate breakfast with the other astronauts. Then Mae and the crew put on their orange spacesuits and boarded a van for the short drive to the launch pad. For 2.5 hours until liftoff, they lay on their backs, strapped into their seats, as the countdown progressed. At 10:23 a.m., precisely on time, Endeavour lifted off on its historic space journey. Dr. Mae Jemison earned her place in the history books as the first African-American woman in space. Mae said, "My participation in the Space Shuttle mission helps to say that all peoples of the world have astronomers, physicists, and explorers." Endeavour's mission was devoted to scientific research. Mae was responsible for several key experiments. She had helped design an experiment to study the loss of bone cells in space. Astronauts lose bone cells in weightlessness, and the longer they stay in space, the more they lose. If too many cells are lost, bones become weak and can break easily. Scientists hope to find a way to prevent this loss. Mae explained, "The real issue is how to keep people healthy while they're in space." Mae investigated a new way of controlling space motion sickness. Half of all astronauts experience space sickness during their first few days in space. They often feel dizzy and nauseated. Astronauts can take medicine to control space sickness, but the medicine can make them tired. To carry out the space sickness experiment, Mae had been trained in the use of biofeedback techniques. Biofeedback uses meditation and relaxation to control the body's functions. Mae wore special monitoring equipment to record her heart rate, breathing, temperature, and other body functions. If she started to feel ill, she would meditate. She concentrated intensely on bringing her body back to normal. The purpose of the experiment was to see if Mae could avoid space sickness without taking medication. The results of the experiment were not conclusive, but space researchers still hope to use biofeedback in the future. Mae was also in charge of the frog experiment. Early in the flight, she fertilized eggs from female South African frogs. A few days later, tadpoles hatched. She then watched the tadpoles carefully. Her goal was to find out if the tadpoles would develop normally in the near-zero gravity of space. What we've seen is that the eggs were fertilized and the tadpoles looked pretty good, said Mae. It was exciting because that's a question that we didn't have any information on before. On September 20th, 1992, at 8:53 a.m., Endeavour landed at Kennedy Space Center. The crew had spent more than 190 hours, almost 8 days, in space. They had traveled 3.3 million miles and had completed 127 orbits of Earth. After her space mission, Mae returned home to Chicago. Her hometown welcomed her with 6 days of parades, speeches, and celebrations. Then she went to Hollywood to accept the American Black Achievement Award's Trailblazer Award for being the first African-American woman in space. In 1993, Mae was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame in Seneca Falls, New York. Mae Jemison had made her childhood dream come true. She was ready for new challenges. A few months after her spaceflight, Mae took a leave of absence from NASA to teach and to do research at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire. Then, on March 8, 1993, she permanently resigned from the astronaut corps. Mae formed her own company called the Jemison Group, Inc. The Jemison Group's goal is to develop ways of using science and technology to improve the quality of life. Mae's company makes a special effort to improve conditions in poor and developing countries. The company's first project used satellite communications to provide better health care for people in West Africa. Mae also established an international summer science camp for young people. Besides her work with the Jemison Group, Mae spends much of her time traveling around the country, giving speeches and encouraging young people to follow their dreams. Mae Jemison believes in the motto, "Don't be limited by others' limited imaginations."